What's going on, everyone? It has been a while since I've gone live on my personal page. What's up, guys? I know it's a late one, and the reason for that is because you guys, if you notice, I was in Arizona this past weekend. So I was out there covering the Save America rally that just happened yesterday. So I was kind of trying to schedule myself out so we can still do this interview this weekend. I know Anthony Trimino's really busy. I know we're kind of like all out there, out in the streets, and there's so many rallies going. But I definitely wanted to connect with Anthony Trimino going into, you know, uh, into these elections. It's election year, 2022 midterms. So it'll definitely be interesting. It's going to be an interesting year. I think there's a lot to be optimistic about for sure. Hey, Camille, how are you? So definitely want people to stay tuned. We're going to have great interviews. We're going to have really good things happening. So very excited. Let me see here. Let me see if he is here so I can invite him. There we go. Mr. Tremino. Just sent you an invite. What's going on, everyone? Thanks for joining us. I know it's a late one, but I figured you could put your kids to sleep, pour yourself some wine, tune in. Hey, Mr. Tremino, how are you?
Hey, how are you doing?
Doing good, doing good. I'm just coming back from the Save America rally in Florence, Arizona, with Donald Trump, and then we also had the gubernatorial candidate Carrie Lake. So just made it back in time today to sit down with you and kind
Awesome.
of update our audience here on everything that's happening. So once again, thank you. It's great to have you back on the live, and it's good to have you here. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, it's great to be here. We kind of missed each other at Freedom Revival. I know that you were there. I was there speaking, but we didn't
Yeah.
connect.
No, yeah. I saw your team. I connected with them as per usual. I saw your wife, said hi to her, but I definitely missed you. I got some good pictures of you, though.
Well, you're gonna have to share them. I haven't seen them, so I look
For
forward to seeing
sure.
them.
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, wanted to thank you for coming back.
Of
To
course.
be honest, you continue to amaze me with the work that you continue to do, and that's kind of like going to be like one of my first questions to you. Is going to be 2021 recall didn't go as planned. Obviously, I think that it showed that there's a lot of potential, but didn't go as planned. People didn't get the results that we wanted. Where do you think that it went wrong? Like looking back at it, maybe not your campaign specifically, but what are Republicans kind of getting wrong, or what is it that they could do better going into the 2022 election?
Yeah, I think that well, because we've spoken. I didn't get into this for the recall. So when I got into this race, it was for the general 2022. The recall hadn't been certified yet, so we obviously got into it because it was happening, right? So we were always anticipating a long runway. When Newsom changed the rules of the recall, he basically shortened the runway, which was going to make it nearly impossible for that heavy lift. There wasn't enough time really to build the momentum to get awareness out there. It was calculated what he did in changing the time frames and changing the rules, and so I don't know. We were all hopeful, all Californians, I think, that were for the recall. We're hopeful that we could create enough momentum that at least get the yes on question number one, right? But I think that there was just politics in play, not a long enough runway, a really crowded field, and a lot of what Larry Elder coming in, and I think he brought a lot of awareness to the recall that wasn't there, and the
Mm-hmm.
awareness that he brought, I believe, was on the left, and really with Democrats and getting them aware of what was happening, and kind of got a lot of people who would normally not vote to vote against the recall. And so it was just it was an interesting endeavor for sure. I think that what we learned in particular with our campaign was, I run an ad agency, and we look at data all the time. We look at consumer behavior, we look at metrics, data. We look at things differently than just black and white. So when we look at the recall for us, the recall on September 14th was for us just a poll. It was a temperature check of where we were at that time, kind of allowed us to see where the momentum was building across the state, where we were
Okay.
getting big traction, and then kind of what we needed to do and calculate for the next phase of the campaign, which we launched officially in January 1.
Okay. No, yeah, that's actually a really good assessment. I know that a lot of people said, hey, Trimino kind of entered the game late. So I kind of felt like maybe from the beginning, obviously you were running for the right reasons. You've always struck me as a very honest campaign person, and a serious person at that, because you've stayed in the game, unlike other people that kind of disappeared after that, that special election.
Mm-hmm.
You've stayed involved. You're at the local level. You're going city to city, kind of trying to win people's votes over. And that was kind of like the segue into what I was going to say is there's a lot of people that are very upset that Elder kind of, for lack of a better word, kind of, I guess, gave up or rolled over so fast right after, the elections were called for Gavin Newsom. There's a lot of people that said my vote had not yet been counted. I checked online. It hadn't even been processed yet. There was nothing. So why is it that Elder just kind of said, well, we lost, until next time? So what is your honest assessment on why Larry Elder kind of gave up so early? Why didn't he challenge the vote? Why didn't he wait till every single vote was counted? And would you have contested the election results, seeing it was called so quickly?
I can't tell you what's going on in anyone else's head. I can't tell you what their intentions are. Can't tell you what their desires are. What I can tell you is that there are many people that entered into the recall at the very last minute, right at the within days of the filing date, of the last date to file. There were many people who had no intention of running for the general. And so I think that there were several people that got into the race, thought that they could come in with big name ID, generate a bunch of money, and ultimately win the campaign off of that, on the strength of that, and not necessarily thinking about long term. And so when that didn't happen, I think you saw the people who were in it for the right reasons stayed, and the people who are probably not as serious taking on this task and this role, you saw them disappear or move on to something different, right?
Correct.
And everybody has their own reasoning for why they do what they do, but I know that coming off of the recall, consistent with what I've always said, which is we're fighting for November 2022, we didn't stop. We didn't stop a bit. I mean, I was still speaking at colleges, on campuses, at school boards, at parks, on street corners. And then, and I even started to identify other ways in which I could battle and fight, which is, obviously starting We Are Still Heroes, and the significance and importance of doing something to stand up for our frontline workers that were being unjustly terminated. So I don't know why people do what they do. All I know is that I kept my word. I said that I was in this for the long run. I said that I was in this for the general. And you know them by their fruits. And if you look at what I've done from day one to what I've done up until today and what I'm continuing to do, it's consistent across the board. I've never been inconsistent with anything that I've said, any position I've taken, any policy point. I've been steadfast on faith, steadfast on the issues that matter to me, steadfast on the run. And I think it shows. And I think that as we start to see in 2022, potentially more candidates coming into this race, you're going to have to ask that question as a voter. Where were you in October, November, December, in January? Where were you? Because I'm pretty much alone out here. Not alone in that I have, California is there's an incredible revival happening across the state. I'm not alone. I have tons of momentum, but I'm saying as far as candidates are concerned, I feel like I'm out here fighting for California by myself, which is fine, which is absolutely fine for me. As far as I'm concerned, every other candidate could stay home, stay out of my way. Let me do what I need to do, get behind us, and let me continue to build on this momentum. So
You're absolutely right. I can't tell you how many hundreds, if not thousands, of people that I've talked to that I've talked about the election, the special election that just happened. A lot of them had kind of like buyer's remorse. They said I voted for the wrong Republican because these people disappeared. These people have not been fighting. That they haven't been talking to the healthcare workers that are being laid off. Kaiser Permanente. I have dozens of people flooding my email with from Kaiser Permanente saying we just got laid off and there's no voice, there's no news, there's nothing happening. It seems like no one cares. And the thing about these laid off workers is it's not a left or right issue. It should be like everyone should be involved issue.
Mm-hmm.
It should matter to everyone. These are grandmothers, these are mothers, these are our children, these are our these are our brothers, our sisters, our cousins that are being laid off and now they don't have a means of income. And you're talking about living in a state that's already one of the highest taxed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of I'm really impressed because you're absolutely right in that you stayed consistent. And that's why I've always been impressed by yourself, the character that you've had, the way you've carried yourself. You have nothing to gain and everything to lose as like this business mogul that's kind of built from scratch and been able to build your platform and your success. And you're like, I want to help because I actually care. And I kind of did see that with a lot of different political candidates where it seemed like they ran on the wrong reasons. And, now you have people that ran and they're nowhere to be seen at all. I haven't seen them at a single rally, at a single
Mm-hmm.
event. And you've been there. So I definitely applaud you for that and in that consistency. But with what I just said about California economy, the latest census tells us that as usual, more and more people are leaving California. Over 300,000 people left in between 2018 and 2020. These are families. These are potential
Mm-hmm.
Republican voters. But you continue to fight. But how do you feel going into 2022, losing these potential voters? What do you tell those people that are demoralized and see
Yeah.
no hope in California and are just barely hanging on?
Yeah, I talked to so many people that are so discouraged. They've lost hope. Many of them have left, which is unfortunate. We know that California is the best state in the country to live in, right? Hands down. Everybody knows that. But
We all know it.
it's not a welcoming place anymore. It's just not. And I talk to families, frontline workers being terminated, families that are just no longer feel safe sending their kids to our public schools, families that can no longer, women who can no longer jog at night safely because of the homeless situation, the crime, business owners because of the crime, just wanting to leave. What I say to them is don't lose hope. We need you here. We need you to stay. We need you to fight. I understand what it's like to be discouraged and want to leave. I was on that boat. I'll tell you a story real fast. Because I was trying to articulate that. People ask me a lot of times, and you said it right. I built a successful company up over 20 years. I could have literally just picked up and left. And I was trying to figure out a way of articulating what made me stay and why I stayed in this fight. And I got this analogy the other day. I'll share it with you. Basically, coming into 2021, right? We had just had one of our best years in business to date. 2020, we got fastest growing company in America. Marriage is going well, kids going well. Everything was great. And we had just put 2020 behind us. So I'm thinking, so hopeful of 2021. We're going to close that chapter, move forward. And it's like everything in my life was in sync, but I started to smell smoke, right? I started to sense something not right. As a business owner, I saw it in the taxes that we were paying, enormous amount of taxes, more than anywhere in the country. And I didn't see the return on that investment, right? I saw what they were doing in our school systems, critical race theory, sexuality being taught. I saw our frontline workers being terminated, the attack on our church. I saw the attack on our medical freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at California and I said, this house is burning down. Like the house is on fire. I told my family, we need to get out of here. The house is on fire. It's going to collapse. I don't have any hope that anyone's going to put out this fire. We need to go. So I told my family, let's get out of this house. Let's get out of this burning house. And we started to run for the curb. And that curb is Florida, right? Like so many people,
Mm-hmm.
like you got to
Yeah.
get out, go to Texas, go to Florida, get out. And as I was running metaphorically to this curb, trying to get my affairs in order to leave, my wife says to me, you need to stop and you need to turn around and you need to look at what we're leaving behind. And I was reluctant, and I said, no, I'm focused on where we're going. The house is on fire. She says, no, you need to turn around and look at what we're leaving behind. And this happened over the course of a month. She would just plead with me, you need to stop, look at what we're leaving behind. And I thought the argument that she was going to make was, California's beautiful, the weather's great, and that wasn't going to be enough to make me stay, right? So reluctantly, I turned around and I realized something. I had an epiphany. It wasn't just a house on fire. There were also 40 million people trapped in that house.
Correct.
And as I started to look at those people that were trapped in that house, I started to see faces that were very familiar to me. I saw my mom, I saw my dad, my brother, my sister, my siblings, my nieces, my nephews, my coworkers, my community, my in-laws. I started to realize that I would be leaving them behind as well. And then I saw millions of faces that I did not even recognize, faces I don't even know, who were stuck, who were trapped, who couldn't just easily, like me, just pick up and leave. And I had that epiphany, and I realized someone needs to run back into the house and save as many people as possible. So that's what I did in April of last year. Me launching our campaign was me running back into the house saying, someone's got to put out the fire. Someone's got to save these people. Now, I'm not so arrogant to think that I can do it alone. I can't. It's going to take an army of people getting behind our campaign, people running for office, people standing up and fighting, rallying. It's going to take millions of people to do this, but
Correct.
I stayed because I wasn't prepared to leave people behind. I wasn't prepared. Just because I was able to leave didn't mean I should leave. And I felt a duty and a call to come back and fight. So you're right. As I do this, it's tireless work. And it's funny. It's the first time in my life that I'm actually fighting to achieve something that would actually set me back. If you think about it, like, it's not like this is a promotion for me. And a lot of politicians, they run for office because they're advancing their career. And a lot of people, they run for office, especially when you talk about a significant office like this will be the pinnacle of their career. The most amount of money they make and the most amount of power they have, right? For me, there's no incentive to do it. And it's really difficult for the first time fighting so hard for something that is literally selfless. It's really for my children, your children, our grandchildren. Because if we don't save California this year, if Gavin Newsom stays in office as of November, this state will never look the same. Think about on September 14th, we had the recall. September 15th or 16th, like 24 hours after the recall, LA implemented their vaccine verification system across the county right after. 4 days later, Newsom signs a bill that would allow 11, 12-year-olds to get abortions and sex changes on your insurance without your consent. They were emboldened by the results of the recall. And that was coming into an election year. Can you imagine if come November, this guy stays in office, what he will be emboldened to do, what our cities and counties and the state will do with him having 4 additional years? This is it. This is the hill. This is the time. So I'm in this. I'm serious about it. I'm dead set, laser focused. My mission is to remove Gavin Newsom from office, period.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There, following that election, I saw that a lot of cities did feel very emboldened. They said, well, our guy stays in, and so therefore we're going to do this. And, I have a lot of people that are really close friends with at the Hill. I know that they already said what their agenda is going to be looking like past 2022. If he is reelected, I know what's at stake. I know that there are people fighting everywhere. I mean, just the rally that you spoke at just recently in San Diego, thousands of parents are now getting involved. There's thousands of people. I talked to Democrats, I talked to Republicans, I talked to independents. I talked to people that were having buyer's remorse that voted for Gavin Newsom and said, this is not what I elected him to do. I didn't think he was going to go this far. I didn't know that our family was going to be destroyed. I didn't know that our businesses were going to be shut down. We're not liking this at all. And, it's going to take, like you said, it's going to take an army to be able to really go into these communities and kind of reach out and be able to spread your campaign message, but also just the message of get out and vote and get involved. You need to get involved.
This is a nonpartisan conversation we're having, if you think about it, this is the first time in a long time that we can put politics aside. Left, right, liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican. This election is not about politics in any way, shape, or form. This election is purely based on the things that affect our daily life. I don't care from what walk of life you are, what religion you hold near and dear. I don't care what political party. We can all agree that this is not the California we want to leave to our kids. We do not feel safe sending our kids to school. We do not agree that they should be taught radical ideologies like critical race theory, or for 11 and 12-year-olds to be able to consent to operations, sex changes, abortions without our consent on our insurance. Like who could get behind that type of policy? We can all agree that the homeless crisis, Gavin Newsom has been an elected official for going on 12 years now. San Francisco and then Sacramento. I mean, are we better off because he's been in office in any place he's touched? No, our homelessness is out of control. Our taxes are out of control. This is not the California any of us want to be in. I think we need to set aside party lines, set aside, religious differences, set aside all of that and say, can we come together for once and say, let's take back our state. Let's elect somebody who is going to basically right the ship, undo so much of what was done. So many politicians come in and their campaign narrative is, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. I'm going to change. I think what we first need to do in California is to get somebody in office that's going to undo so much of what has been incorrectly done, right? Lift the state of emergency, stop the mandates, give power back to the people, equip individuals, a free society to make decisions that are best for them, and give them all the tools that they need to do it. Protect our children in schools, actually address the homeless problem, actually make it attractive for businesses to stay in California, reduce our taxes. Our governor was boasting a $47 billion surplus. At the same time, I'm posting pictures of LA that literally, I think 80% of the comments on my post thought that the picture I posted was of a third world country. That's LA. It's LA. So, I think that we have a unique opportunity as Californians to come together, to unite, to stand together, put aside politics, put aside religious differences, put aside all of that and say, why don't we fight for a California that feels safe, that we can pass on to our children and feel good about, because this is not the California we want to leave to our kids.
Absolutely. You talked on a lot of different topics, and one of them you kind of delved into the next segue question that I had here for you. But before that, it's kind of interesting how the media plays such a role in all of this, because we had Ron DeSantis of Florida that he was touting $100 billion surplus, and then they scrutinized the guy because a lot of that money was relief fund money given by the federal government. But then you have Gavin Newsom doing the same thing, where he's touting a $45 billion surplus, which is also federal money that have been received, and granted, that's all still our money anyway. But the media just said, like, wow, how amazing that this guy's running such a great state. I'm like, wait a minute, like you guys were like demolishing Ron DeSantis for touting this. And it's the same thing with Gavin Newsom, but you're praising him as if he were like this economic wizard.
I think it's real fast. I think it's important that everybody understands the long game here. The Democrats are setting Newsom up for a presidential run in 6 years from now. So after the Biden administration is clear, Newsom has his eyes set on Washington. And so what they're doing is they're grooming him for that. So the media is grooming him for that. The Democratic Party is they're grooming him for that. And so just imagine if you look at what California is like, if you give that guy the keys to the White House. We need to take this election, we need to take him out and ruin any and all plans he has on setting his eyes on Washington. And if I get into office, we will completely implode that plan. But if he stays in office, they're going to spend the next 4 years setting him up, grooming him for a White House run. And we can't let that happen. We absolutely cannot let that happen.
So with that, I'll jump into the next question. You kind of really touched on it like in this previous segment, but I just kind of wanted to maybe have you speak on it a little bit more specifically. But Larry Elder, Kevin Kiley, noticeably they were heavy hitters for the re-election. Elder said he's not running. Kevin Kiley said he's running for Congress. What does that mean for your campaign? How will you grow to be a force to be reckoned with and connect with voters across the aisle? How do you court the moderates? How do you court like
Sure.
these a little bit left of center, but that are looking for sane policy?
So I'm not a politician, I'm a businessman, so I come already with a fresh perspective, right? But everything that I said a little earlier was about creating that middle, right? Creating that middle ground. It's not about politics. It's not about fringe. It's not about what makes us different. It's what unites us. I can sit down with people who, so many of my supporters don't share my religion. So many of my supporters are, I've come to find out, are liberals or Democrats who are just tired of that type of policy, those type of politics. They realize the attack on our children, on our families, and on their jobs. So our entire campaign was intended to create a bigger middle. It was never intended to be too far to one side. It was literally I'm a conservative running on conservative values. That's the most important thing. And I believe that most people fall within that bucket of being conservative. They just don't know it or haven't actually done the research to understand, especially in the Hispanic community, Anthony, I'm sure you know this. So many Hispanics have voted left for so long. But if you have meaningful conversations and you sit down and you say, hey, let's go through the things that are important to you. Let's talk about church. Let's talk about life. Let's talk about family values. Let's talk about taxes. The majority, I'd say 9 out of 10 Hispanics that I've spoken to fall under the conservative category, but they didn't know
Correct.
it. They didn't know it. They never knew that that's what it was called. And they didn't know that the Republican Party fits more in line with their values than the left. So
Correct.
I get what it's going to take to win California. I get that it's not going to be a radical right. I get that it's going to be standing firm on conservative values that everyone can get behind. And so that's what we're doing. That's what we've always done. I've been consistent since day one. That's what we're going to continue to do. With regards to the race itself, when everything was said and done, we came in, there were 6 candidates ahead of us on the Republican ticket. 5 of those candidates are out of the race. 2 of them are already behind us, and we expect more to follow.
Quick little interjection there. I apologize for cutting you
Sure.
off there, but is that concerning that some of the heaviest hitters are no longer run? Does that concern you? Is that so? Some people will probably look at that. Some people will probably look at that and be like, well, they probably know that there's just no chance, or they probably just know it's not worth it anymore, or they probably looked at the election and said, you know what, it's too big of a Goliath. Does that concern you?
No, my entire career was based on me having more stamina and grit than my competitors, right? I look at that and I say, look, they were probably in it for the wrong reason, probably weren't prepared for the 12-round fight, right? They were thinking this thing was going to end in 2 rounds, and that's what they trained for, and that's kind of when they realized that it's going to take more than that. It's not concerning to me because I always knew from day one this was a David and Goliath story. I knew from day one we're attempting to unseat arguably the most powerful political dynasty of our time, right? You have Pelosi, Soros, and you have Newsom. This was never going to be a cakewalk. You don't kill a devil in a park. It's like, this is going to be hell. And I always expected it to be. So we trained for that. We planned for that. My entire career, everything I built because I don't have a plan B. I'm so focused on the task at hand that I'm relentless. And even if along the way we have to pivot, change direction, change strategy, that's what I do. It's what I do all day long. So I'm not concerned that some of these heavy hitters, as you call them, got out of the race. I'm actually glad, because what it did was it showed a lot of people their intention. It actually cleared the field for us. And because I think they're going to pursue areas that I think they'll be more successful in, they can get behind what we're doing, and we can kind of come together and really push this movement forward. So I'm incredibly optimistic by the fact that they have now gone, Kevin running for Congress, Elder now
Yeah.
creating a super PAC. In essence, I think now it's created an environment where we can pick up more allies and they can help fight this fight in a different way. And so I'm super excited about it. And like I said, a few of them have already come aboard and said, look, we're with you and we want to support. How can we help? And so I'm super optimistic about that. But no, I'm not discouraged about it at all.
That's an interesting perspective. I didn't think about it that way. That regardless of them running or not, again, come 2022, they're actually starting things that need to be done. Obviously, we
Yeah.
need more Republicans in Congress to be able to, take back the House and take back the Senate. And then you also need super PACs like Larry Elder is doing. And so it's an interesting perspective that not to see it as a negative or see it as something to be demoralized about. It's more actually like saying like, hey, we need a strong foundation, and we saw that maybe that wasn't there 2021, so we want to build it for 2022. And that's a stronger candidates, stronger super PACs, more money into California politics. And I think that's something that you also brought up is that in California, the message is not far right, and I think you're absolutely right. That's something that I think that a lot of people just don't understand about California is. And I've kind of gotten in trouble with this because I've said it before, but you don't win California on Trump messaging. And what I mean by that is it's not that I think that he is far right. It's just I think that a lot of his policies probably do better in more red states where you have the legislation to be able to back you. California, I think, is going to be more of a moderate state where you need people that are willing to kind of set aside, hey, I am a Christian, but I will work with you. If you are not a Christian, hey, I am a Republican, but I will work with you if you are a Democrat. And I think that you've done really well in messaging that. And you did say that. You did say, I have a lot of people that are not necessarily Republican or Christian that support me. They just support that I'm willing to meet them, that I'm willing to listen to what they have to say. And regardless if they're Democrat, liberal, Republican, libertarian, whatever it is, I'm willing to meet them and say, okay, how can we work on something that will work for all Californians, not just for, the right Republican or the very far left or whatever. No, it's something that works alongside. And with that, my second to last question is going to be, we have Gavin Newsom that's proposing universal health care income. I think that one of the things that kind of hurts Republicans is that whenever something is presented that sounds socialist, or something that says universal this or universal free healthcare, universal free college, the Republican Party immediately turns into like a turtle where it says, no, we're not going to do that. No, we're not that. And people are like, yes, that person is not for that. But then what is your solution? So do you agree with Gavin Newsom's universal healthcare income, or I'm sorry, with the universal healthcare? And if not, what do you propose for people seeking help with healthcare finances?
Yeah, so no, I don't agree with this policy. I think it puts unnecessary tax burden and gives the state way too much control over the healthcare system. And yes, it does smell and look like us walking toward socialism. I spent the last 20 years working with the top healthcare insurance companies in the nation, not pharmaceutical, healthcare companies, hospitals, medical groups, doctors, physicians that are literally on the front lines trying to deliver care, trying to innovate care, trying to bring new technology to make it easier for people to access care. And what we're doing is we're building an advisory board of some of the brightest minds in healthcare to rethink how we deliver healthcare, how we structure healthcare, how we pay for healthcare, how people access healthcare, utilizing technology, utilizing different ways to treat. And so that's something I'm extremely excited about rolling out, is really kind of my whole platform, my whole approach to governing is basically how we would run a business, which is creating advisory boards of the best and the brightest minds in each category to actually sit and create policy that makes more sense, that's more collaborative, that doesn't expand government, but shrinks government and gives more options to people. How we handle the pandemic, we have a governor with a one-track mind on how he wants to approach addressing the pandemic. Why? I have a 7-point solution for how we should address the pandemic beyond the shot, and really providing options to people and educating people. So my approach to healthcare is going to be innovative. It's going to be based on an advisory council, and it's going to shrink government, not expand it. And it's going to give way more power to people to have more options, which then creates a competitive landscape, which will drive down costs and would be better for all Californians. Such a model that I think we can eventually present it nationwide and be the epicenter of how we innovate in the healthcare industry.
Yeah, and I think that that is something that a lot of people are very concerned about. We've had these lockdowns, we've had these mandates, we've kind of had this sort of healthcare tyranny going over with working hand in hand with the state and the federal government to kind of impose these draconian standards and mandates that it got to the point where, you know, it's so interesting how the previous administration, they call him a dictator. And, you know, I won't even pretend that this was my original thought, but I saw this in a tweet somewhere where they said, you know, they blamed the previous administration of being so tyrannical and being like this dictator that the Supreme Court just had to stop President Biden from being just that, from being a dictator, to say, you will do this and you will do that. You don't have a choice. We're going to fire you. We're going to basically, you know, redo everything in regards to healthcare and the way we run. You know, it's almost like you don't even need socialized medicine if medicine is just going to do whatever the state tells it to do anyway. You know, where it's saying like, hey, we command it, working alongside the state and the federal government, and we're going to tell you what you will do. Again, going back to like the Kaiser Permanente employees, where these people don't even have a choice. Excuse me, you have these employees that said, my religious rights are being infringed on. They just turned down all of our religious exemption. And to me, that's extremely concerning, regardless of what religion you are. If your religion says, you know, that, hey, you have that choice to be able to choose because, you know, of a religious belief, then you should be entitled to that.
You know what's funny, Anthony? We shouldn't need to rely on our religious freedoms. How about just our right to say no?
Correct.
How about we don't have to justify why we want to say no? How about we just, you know, are able to utilize our God-given inalienable rights over our own bodies? How about we're just able to say, hey, I'm not going to take the shot, and I don't need to tell you why. I don't need to explain it. I don't need to justify it. You don't have to bring it to the board. I don't have to sit in front of a body. You don't have to interview me. How about I just say no because I'm a free citizen living in a free society. This is America. The fact that we even have to categorize our no, the fact that we have to justify it and then go in, and we have firefighters, police officers, teachers, military that have to go in and then justify where in my religion it says that I can't take this shot. Like, we have to now argue, like in a court of law. It's not enough to say no. It's not enough to say no because of religious reasons. Now I have to defend what my religion practices as, you know, as protection to me not get. That's absolutely insane. Absurd. It's absurd. Yeah. How about just no? How about we stop there? No, and that should be good enough. That would be like California under my administration, is no mandates whatsoever, free people, free society. That doesn't mean I'm ignorant and we don't address the problem. It doesn't mean that, you know, because I can almost see Gavin and a lot of the people on the left saying, well, see, this is a radical guy that doesn't think there's a problem and he's just going to get everybody sick. That's ignorant, right? Educating people, giving them options on how to take care of themselves before, during, and after they get sick is the right way to do it. And I believe that giving a free society the opportunity to live as a free society would actually cause people to make good decisions, and we would reduce our risk just based on the amount of options we would give and the information we would provide, and allowing people to make decisions that are best for their families. But the whole idea behind, I have to tell you no, then I got to justify it and within a category, and then I have to now go and defend that category, is absolutely absurd. That's not America.
I completely agree. It should just be to the point where if you just don't want to, that should be your absolute right to be like, I just don't want to. I don't have to give you a personal belief exemption. I don't have to give you a religious exemption. But you're absolutely right. We also still have to take into consideration that we do live in a society where we have to be conscious of other people. And I think there's a right way to do it, a way that doesn't infringe on our personal rights, but also is conscious of other people, right? And so with that, my last question to you here is, there's a lot of people that want to know, and I see it even here in the comments, they said, how do I get involved with either this campaign or can you kind of guide us through like the next couple of months? What should that look like? There's a lot of people that are kind of waiting to the primaries, But there's a lot of candidates I talk to saying you have to get involved way before
Yeah.
the primaries. You have to start donating to your favorite
Yeah.
candidate so that they can get them pushed past the primaries, and that can be the Republicans to win. And then there's also the volunteering, having to knock
Mhm.
on doors, make those phone calls, send those emails, send those text messages. So how do people get involved right now at the local level? What do you
Yeah.
recommend to people to do now?
The Democrats have an enormous ground game. They
They
have,
do.
if you, I speak across the state. I go into, I speak in front of audiences on Republican audiences all the time, and you look out into the audience and you realize that the younger demographic isn't represented. The Republicans have not done a good enough job firing up the youth, firing up the 20 to 30s, the 30 to 40s. It's really the party is aging out. And so the Democrats have done a good job getting everybody involved at every level of every generation. And because of that, they're able to deploy all of these people across the state, manpower. They get people out at college campuses. They get people out door knocking. They get people canvassing, calling, and so they have a well-oiled machine. And so what we need to do to compete is we need to build an army. We need to build an army of people at every age level, at every, with various resources. We need people to volunteer to go door knocking, volunteer to go set up booths and tables at college campuses, at events. We need people to volunteer their time to, send out letters. And look, I've built a successful company, but the heavy lift, the financial lift to actually unseat Gavin Newsom is absolutely enormous. And everybody that I talk to, one of the first questions they ask is, so how much money are you going to raise? And where are you going to get your money? And it's like, because they understand the significance of, we can have the right message, but if nobody hears it, what good does it do? So we need everybody to help get the message out. That means using your social platform. It's free, right? Use your social platforms. I hope that you get behind me. I hope that you see how genuine I am, and I hope that you see my heart. And if you want to get behind us, use your social platforms. It's free. Tell every single person you know about what we're doing as many times as you can. Then tell your neighbors and tell people that you go, at school, at work. That costs nothing. That's just energy, right? But what we need across the state is everybody to participate financially as well and donate, whether that's $5 or, you have somebody that could fund the Super Bowl commercial, anywhere in between. You look at various campaigns. Trump raised an enormous amount of money on his own, basically almost single-handedly funded himself. Bernie Sanders had hundreds of thousands of people donating like $5. Like, there's so many different ways to build it. We're looking for everyone's support, whether you can send in $1, whether it's 100, 1,000 or more. It's not for my living. It's not for me. 100% of donations go toward getting the message out. And the Democrats do an amazing job generating money. If you think about the recall, I think it was $80 million that Newsom raised during the recall, compared to, and by the way, Larry Elder raised an enormous amount of money, but I think that was like 20 million compared to Gavin's 80 million. I mean, the Democrats have a machine. They know how to generate money, and they have a ground game. So if we're going to compete, we need a ground game. We need everyone out there who can lend time and their energy and their voice, but we also need the finances to actually build this mechanism, this machine, to get the word out. And you can do any number of those things at anthonytrimino.com.
Yeah, and I think that, in a closing statement here, I think that what people need to realize too, that even just in the last couple of months, so much has changed. I know that some people are saying like, well, we just had the special election in 2021. What's going to be different come 2022? And I would say a lot is different. I mean, we just had the Virginia race, and every single county in Virginia swayed Republican. Every single county. There's so much more at stake. And I think that's actually what's really helped us, is that the so-called experts that have kind of locked down the nation for the last couple of years, it's slowly starting to unravel all the misinformation and disinformation that they themselves have been putting out. So now you have a lot more families wondering, wait a minute, was I lied to? And this has just happened in like a span of like the last month, where so much has been unearthed, so much has been revealed. You got new studies coming out saying like, wait a minute, this new variant is way less deadly than this or that. You know, and I don't want to jump too much into it with the variants and stuff like that, or that whole thing, but there's a lot more people now questioning everything, and they're looking for stronger candidates. They're looking to turn away from like, wait a minute, if I voted this way for the last 20 years and nothing has changed, then maybe now is a time for me to actually make a difference. And I can tell you from experience, I've talked to hundreds of people that didn't even vote in the special election, and they're like, I think I'm going to start voting now because this is getting unbearable. And I mean, I don't know what your experience is, but that's been my experience. I saw people there at the San Diego rally that voted Newsom in the special election, and they're like, this is my first kind of like these type style events. I've never been to something like this, but enough is enough. Like, I'm watching my best friends get fired.
California was bad enough going into the recall, right? So let's think about those that voted to keep Gavin in, or those that did not vote to get him out. They basically are, it's the same, right? Are we better off today than we were September 14th? Him staying in office, him understanding that millions of people stood up with one voice to say, you need to go. He got put on check. He got put on notice. What did he do from that point till today? Did things get better? Did he look at it and say, hey, I'm going to take this to heart. There are millions of people who are dissatisfied with me. I'm going to acknowledge them. I'm going to mend it. I'm going to bridge now, right? I'm going to make things better. Did he do that from then till now? No. The state is actually worse today than it was September 14th. So it's... We you know, the people that voted him to stay, or the people that didn't vote at all, need to look at that and say, this is a guy that was put on notice, almost lost his job, and yet from that moment till now has only done more, which we would call insubordination, only do more to lose his job. So it's gotten worse.
Yeah.
So if you don't take action now, if you don't get behind what we're doing, if you don't get up and fight and go out and vote and get behind, you know, a movement like this, you're going to have blood on your hands come November, when this guy stays in office and then just inflicts his will on the California people. Nobody in America has abused their power more than Gavin Newsom. And that says a lot when you think about what's happening in even New York, which, you know, it's a whole nother mess. But Gavin Newsom has abused his power. He's abused his stay. He needs to go. We need to fire Gavin Newsom. And I want to do it.
No, yeah, good. And I hope, you know, for the sake of our children and our grandchildren, I think I hope you're right come this November. And I think that also people need to realize that since his re-election, think of all the thousands and thousands of people that have been fired because of these mandates. Back then, we didn't have the stories really to share. But now you can literally, like, I advise any Republican that's running against Gavin Newsom, all you need to do is put up commercials of all the heroes that have been fired. Put up a commercial of that firefighter that was on the force for 17 years. Put up a commercial of that LAPD officer that worked, anti-human trafficking unit, or that worked, you know, to get drugs off the streets. Put the image of him being fired because of these draconian mandates, that these people were heroes.
For your audience, you know, a few months back, I started We Are Still Heroes for that purpose. When I started to see our frontline workers, our police officers, firefighters, teachers, nurses, and military get fired because of non-compliance, I felt the need to build a community. So we started We Are Still Heroes. You could go to wearestillheroes.org. You can go on Instagram, We Are Still Heroes. And all those stories that you said, they're there. We have real pictures, real stories from people, families that are being devastated, that are being discriminated against, that are being fired because they're standing up for their freedom. And it's story after story after story of heartbreak. You know, the only breadwinner in the family being terminated, children not knowing how they're going to eat, families where, you know, you have somebody who's all they know how to do is this. They only know how to be a police officer. They only know how to be a firefighter. their lifelong dream was to be in our military and fight for our country, and they're being terminated and fired, and there's story
So
after story
disgusting.
that will break your heart. And this is all under Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom is to blame and is responsible for allowing this to happen. And so his hands are dirty. He needs to go. And I hope that everybody watching will support what we're doing, get behind what we're doing, and put me in office so I can right the wrong and restore our republic again.
Amen. Well, again, wanted to thank you so much. That was the last question that I had for you. And I think that, that is something to consider for all those people that are saying what's going to be different this time. Thousands, tens of thousands of people have been fired since that special election. And it's not just those people that are being impacted that probably never voted before or, probably voted for Newsom thinking that maybe something was going to change or they trusted him. It's also their families and friends and extended family that now get to watch their friend fired at home, dealing with anxiety, dealing with depression, having to file for unemployment. Those people are changing their mind. I guarantee it. So 2022, it's not to be ignored. And like you said, Mr. Trimino, you're absolutely right. Now you have people running in different offices. You have Larry Elder that was able to fundraise so much, creating a super PAC to hopefully help Republicans in California. So it will be a force to be reckoned with in 2022. And I urge everyone to get involved. So I did pin your website, anthonytrimino.com.
Yeah,
Is that where people can sign up for your to kind of help with the campaign?
Yeah, you can do everything there. You can volunteer there. You can sign up for a newsletter so you can stay in touch with what we're doing. And yes, you can donate. And if it's on your heart to donate, I ask that you do. Again, we need to get the message out, and it's literally just to fund the vehicles to get the message out. It's to get as many people aware of what we're doing as possible, so that we can get a ground game going as well-oiled and as fine-tuned as the left, and we can really take back our state.
All right. Well, Mr. Trimino and everyone that joined us, thank you so much for being here on this Sunday. I'm sure we're going to have you on as we continue to fight for the soul of California. Thank you for everything that you're doing and shining a light on all the fired workers. I know that you guys will continue to do good work, and wish you all the best in your campaign. And I'm sure we'll be seeing each other soon.
I appreciate you, and I'm thankful for people like you that are out there telling truth and in an unbiased way. So appreciate you. God bless you, and keep doing what you're doing as well.
Thank you so much. All right,
we'll
see
Anthony.
you soon.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Okay, bye.